Earth's first Star Destroyer just broke the silence of Space Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UESS Prometheus, watching the stars shift on the main screen. After 3 years of construction and testing, humanity's first real warship was finally leaving the solar system. The massive vessel stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its dark metal hull covered in strange patterns that seemed to bend light around them. "Jump drive ready?" "Commander," reported Lieutenant Torres from his station. The young officer's voice carried a mix of excitement and nervousness that Chen understood completely. Today, humanity would take its first step into the galaxy as more than just explorers. Chen looked around the bridge at her crew of 200. Each person had been chosen from the best military minds on Earth. They represented every nation, every branch of service, united under one flag for the first time in human history. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. "All stations report ready," called out her first officer, Commander Reeves. The tall man had been skeptical of the alien technology when they first started building the ship. Now he operated the controls with the confidence of someone who had spent months learning every system. The Prometheus was unlike anything humans had ever built. 5 years ago, 3 alien scout ships had crashed on Earth during what appeared to be some kind of battle. The ships were small, damaged beyond repair, but their technology was centuries ahead of anything humans possessed. Teams of scientists had worked day and night to understand even the basics. What they found changed everything. The aliens used energy sources that could power entire cities. Their materials were stronger than anything in Earth's periodic table. Most importantly, they had faster-than-light travel that actually worked. But the alien ships were also limited in ways that surprised everyone. Their computers were simple, their weapons basic, and their design seemed built for one specific purpose rather than adapting to different situations. Human engineers had looked at the alien technology and immediately started thinking of ways to improve it. The result was the Prometheus. The ship used alien power cores and FTL drives, but everything else was purely human design. Where alien ships had single-purpose weapons, the Prometheus carried modular systems that could be reconfigured for different threats. Where alien computers followed simple programs, human AI systems could learn and adapt in real time. "Beginning jump sequence," Torres announced. The bridge lights dimmed as massive amounts of power flowed to the drive systems. Through the deck plates, Chen could feel the ship's heartbeat change as exotic matter flowed through conduits designed by minds that had never seen Earth's sun. The main screen showed space beginning to twist. Stars stretched into lines of light as the ship prepared to punch a hole through the fabric of reality itself. Chen had seen the simulations hundreds of times, but experiencing it was completely different. "Jump in 10 seconds, Torres called out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jumping now. Reality exploded into colors that had no names. The Prometheus slipped between dimensions, traveling faster than light through a realm where physics worked differently. For exactly 37 seconds, the ship existed nowhere and everywhere at once. Then space snapped back to normal. New stars filled the view screen, arranged in patterns no human had ever seen. They had traveled 12 light years in less than a minute, farther from Earth than any human in history. "Jump successful," Torres reported, his voice filled with wonder. "We are now in the Alpha Centauri system, exactly where we planned to be." Cheers erupted across the bridge. Chen allowed herself a small smile before raising her hand for silence. "Excellent work, everyone. Begin full sensor sweeps. I want to know everything about this system." The next few minutes were busy as the crew worked through their checklists. The Prometheus deployed sensor arrays that could detect objects across the entire star system. Communication arrays came online, ready to send signals back to Earth. Defensive systems powered up just in case they weren't alone. "Commander," called Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station. Her voice had lost all trace of celebration. "I'm detecting multiple energy signatures moving in our direction. At least 6 contacts, possibly more." Chen felt her stomach drop. The alien ships they had recovered on Earth were scouts, which meant there were larger fleets somewhere out there. "How long until they reach us?" "Unknown. Their propulsion systems are different from ours. Based on energy output, I estimate 20 minutes. Red alert," Chen ordered. Throughout the ship, alarm lights began flashing and crew members rushed to battle stations. "All departments, this is not a drill. We have unknown contacts approaching our position." The Prometheus had been designed for this possibility. Human strategists had studied the crashed alien ships and made educated guesses about what a real alien fleet might look like. The result was a warship that prioritized flexibility over raw power, speed over heavy armor. "Incoming transmission," reported the communications officer. It's not in any Earth language, but the translation software is working on it." Chen had expected this. The crashed alien ships had contained enough linguistic data for human computers to build basic translation programs. It was primitive compared to what they would need for real diplomacy, but it should handle simple military communications. "Put it through," Chen ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed the image of something that was definitely not human. The creature had 4 eyes arranged around a head that looked like a cross between a spider and a fish. Its skin was covered in scales that shifted color as it spoke. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "You have violated galactic transit protocols by operating FTL systems without proper authorization. Shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded for inspection." Chen exchanged glances with Commander Reeves. They had practiced for this scenario, but facing real aliens was completely different from training simulations. "Open a channel," she ordered. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Starship Prometheus," she said, keeping her voice calm and professional. "We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We were not aware of any galactic transit protocols." The alien's scales shifted to a deeper red color. "Ignorance is not an excuse. All emerging species must register with the hegemony before operating in galactic space. Your species will be evaluated for proper classification and assignment. Resistance will result in severe penalties." The transmission ended abruptly. Chen stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. The aliens had talked about emerging species and proper classification, like humans were just another species to be cataloged and controlled. The tone had been similar to how a teacher might speak to a misbehaving child. 6 ships now confirmed," Lieutenant Kim reported. "They're surrounding us in a standard boarding formation." Chen looked around the bridge at her crew. Every person was watching her, waiting for orders that would determine not just their fate, but possibly the fate of all humanity. The aliens clearly expected them to surrender without question. That wasn't going to happen. "All hands, this is the commander," Chen said into the ship's communication system. "We came out here as explorers, but it seems we're going to be tested as warriors. These aliens think humans are just another species to be pushed around. Let's show them they're wrong." The Prometheus powered up its weapon systems. Across the ship, crew members checked their equipment and prepared for humanity's first real battle among the stars. They were outnumbered and far from home, but they carried something the aliens hadn't expected. They carried the refusal to kneel. Fleet Commander Zixtel of the Korthani Empire watched the primitive vessel on his tactical display with mild interest. In his 300 years of service, he had encountered dozens of emerging species. They all followed the same pattern: initial confusion, brief resistance, then complete surrender once they understood the power of the hegemony. This new species would be no different. "Status report," Zixtal ordered, his 4 arms working different control surfaces simultaneously. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was twice the size of the human vessel and carried weapons that could crack a moon in half. "The primitive ship is powering weapon systems," reported his tactical officer. "Energy signatures suggest basic plasma cannons and kinetic projectiles. Threat level minimal." Zixtal's scales rippled in what his species considered laughter. Plasma cannons were what his people had used 5 centuries ago. These humans were even more primitive than initial scans had suggested. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Standard suppression protocol. Disable their engines and weapons, then board for species evaluation." On the bridge of the Prometheus, Commander Chen watched 6 alien ships take positions around her vessel. Each one was larger than her ship, covered in weapons that looked advanced enough to be magic. But she had advantages the aliens didn't know about. "Lieutenant Torres, bring the jump drive to standby," she ordered. "Don't charge it, just make it ready for quick activation." "Yes, Commander. Drive will be ready in 90 seconds. Chen turned to her weapons officer. "Commander Park, I want targeting solutions on all 6 ships. Focus on what look like sensor arrays and communication equipment." "Targeting systems locked and ready," Park reported. "All weapons charged and standing by." The alien fleet opened fire first. Bright beams of energy lanced out from their ships designed to overload the Prometheus's power systems and leave it helpless. It was a tactic that had worked against every other emerging species the hegemony had encountered. But human engineers had studied those tactics. The Prometheus's shields didn't just absorb the energy attacks, they redirected them into the ship's power grid. Instead of being disabled, the human ship actually grew stronger. Shields holding at 110%, reported the defensive systems officer. Power levels increasing across all systems. On his flagship, Zixtal stared at his tactical display in confusion. The human ship should have been disabled by now. Instead, it was showing higher energy readings than before the attack. Increase power to suppression beams, he ordered. These primitives must have some kind of temporary protection. The alien ships fired again, pouring more energy into their attacks. On the Prometheus, warning lights flashed as the shield systems absorbed more power than they were designed to handle. Shields at 140%, the defensive officer called out. We're approaching maximum safe levels. Chen smiled grimly. The aliens were doing exactly what human strategists had predicted. They were so used to overwhelming primitive species that they couldn't adapt when their standard tactics failed. All ships return fire, Chen ordered. Target their sensor arrays first. The Prometheus's weapons were different from anything the aliens had seen. Instead of simple energy beams, the human ship fired controlled bursts of exotic matter that could phase through normal shields. The alien ships had no defense against weapons that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Zixtal watched in shock as his sensor arrays exploded one by one. The human weapons seemed to ignore his shields completely, striking directly at critical systems with impossible accuracy. How are they penetrating our defenses? He demanded. Unknown, Fleet Commander, his tactical officer replied. All four of his eyes focused on the readings. Their weapons appear to be using some form of multi-dimensional physics we haven't encountered before. The Prometheus pressed its attack, moving between the alien ships with speed and agility that shouldn't have been possible for something so large. Human engineers had designed the ship like a fighter craft scaled up to battleship size, with thrust-to-weight ratios that alien ships couldn't match. 2 enemy vessels have lost primary sensors, Commander Park reported. 3 more showing damage to communication arrays. Chen nodded. Without sensors and communications, the alien ships were fighting blind and deaf, but she knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out there were larger fleets and they would be coming soon. Lieutenant Kim, any sign of additional contacts? Negative, Commander. Just the 6 ships we're already engaged with. Zixtal tried to regain control of the battle. His ships were built for overwhelming primitive species, not for fighting an enemy that could actually fight back. The human vessel moved like nothing he had ever seen, appearing to predict his tactics before he implemented them. All ships, concentrate fire on the primitive vessel's drive section, he ordered. We must prevent it from escaping to warn others. The alien ships turned their weapons toward the Prometheus's rear section, where the FTL drive was located. But Chen had expected this move as well. Evasive maneuvers, she ordered. Pattern Delta 7. The Prometheus suddenly accelerated at angles that should have been impossible. The ship's experimental inertial dampeners allowed it to change direction without crushing the crew, letting it move like a fighter while hitting like a battleship. The alien weapons missed their target, striking empty space where the human ship had been moments before. Zixtal's scales shifted to a deep purple color, indicating extreme agitation among his species. They're using predictive navigation, his pilot reported. They appear to know our targeting patterns before we implement them. What the aliens didn't understand was that human computers had analyzed every fragment of data from the crashed scout ships. The AI systems on the Prometheus could predict alien tactics because they had studied alien thinking patterns for 3 years. Commander, Lieutenant Torres called out. I'm detecting energy buildup in the alien fleet. They might be preparing some kind of coordinated attack. Chen had been waiting for this. She knew the aliens would eventually try to use their superior numbers to end the fight quickly. All hands, prepare for emergency jump. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. The Prometheus suddenly stopped moving, hanging motionless in space as its jump drive charged. The alien ships, thinking their enemy was finally disabled, closed in for the kill. At the last possible second, the human ship vanished. Zixtal stared at the empty space where his target had been. FTL travel during combat was considered impossible by every species in the galaxy. The energy requirements and risk of catastrophic failure made it certain suicide. Where did they go? He demanded. Unknown Fleet Commander. They appear to have made an FTL jump, but that should be impossible in a gravity well this strong. 30 seconds later, the Prometheus reappeared directly behind Zixtal's flagship. The human ship had jumped to the outer edge of the star system, recalculated its position, and jumped back to attack from an unexpected angle. Chen's weapons opened fire at point-blank range, targeting the alien flagship's main power core. The exotic matter weapons punched through the rear shields like they didn't exist, causing massive explosions throughout the enemy ship. Direct hit on enemy flagship, Commander Park reported. They're showing critical damage to primary systems. Zixtal felt his ship shudder as human weapons tore through systems that had never been damaged in centuries of service. Emergency alarms wailed throughout his bridge as crew members struggled to contain the damage. "Retreat," he ordered, his voice bitter with the taste of defeat. "All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance." The alien fleet pulled back, leaving the Prometheus alone in the center of the battle space. Chen watched them go, knowing this was only the beginning. The aliens would be back with larger fleets and better weapons, but for now, humanity had won its first battle among the stars. More importantly, they had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. Earth's children would not bow down to anyone. "Set course for the edge of the system," Chen ordered. "We need to get word back to Earth. The hegemony knows about us now, and they're not going to be happy about what just happened." The Prometheus turned toward home, carrying news that would change the course of human history. Behind them, the alien fleet worked to repair their damaged ships and their damaged pride. For the first time in centuries, the hegemony had met a species that refused to surrender. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the first battle, the Prometheus emerged from FTL near a hegemony supply station in the Kepler system. Commander Chen studied the tactical display, counting 12 alien ships guarding what appeared to be a massive orbital facility. "Intelligence was right," she said to Commander Reeves. "They're using the station to coordinate suppression fleets across 3 sectors. The past 3 months had been busy. Earth's shipyards were working around the clock to build more star destroyers based on the Prometheus design. Meanwhile, Chen and her crew had been running hit-and-run attacks against hegemony outposts, gathering intelligence and testing alien responses. What they learned surprised everyone. The hegemony wasn't the all-powerful force it pretended to be. Their technology was advanced but rigid, designed for fighting primitive species that couldn't fight back effectively. When faced with human tactics, they struggled to adapt. "Sensor sweep complete," reported Lieutenant Kim. "Station appears to be lightly armed but heavily shielded. The escort ships are standard hegemony design, 4 heavy cruisers and 8 patrol vessels." Chen nodded. The aliens had learned from their first encounter. They were keeping larger fleets together instead of sending small groups that humans could defeat easily. But they were still thinking like the hegemony always had, using overwhelming force against a weaker enemy. They didn't understand that humans had never been the weaker enemy. "Lieutenant Torres, I want you to prepare something special," Chen said. "Load the experimental warheads we picked up from the research station." 2 weeks ago, the Prometheus had raided a hegemony research facility and discovered something interesting. The aliens were working on weapons designed to destabilize FTL drives, making enemy ships explode when they tried to jump. It was a cruel weapon meant to ensure that no emerging species could ever escape hegemony justice. Human engineers had studied the alien weapon and improved it. Instead of just destabilizing FTL drives, the human version could be programmed to target any exotic matter system. In a galaxy where every advanced technology used exotic matter, that made it incredibly dangerous. "Experimental warheads loaded and ready," Torres reported. "All targeting systems standing by." The Prometheus moved closer to the supply station, using the local asteroid field for cover. Human ships were smaller and more maneuverable than alien vessels, making them perfect for this kind of stealth approach. "Contact," Lieutenant Kim called out. "2 patrol ships are moving to investigate our position." Chen watched the alien ships approach. They moved in a standard search pattern, following procedures that had been used for centuries. Human computers had analyzed every pattern the hegemony used, looking for weaknesses to exploit. "Wait until they pass that large asteroid," Chen ordered. "Then hit them with everything we have." The alien patrol ships moved past the asteroid, their sensors focused on the space ahead of them. They never saw the Prometheus emerge from the asteroid's shadow directly behind them. Human weapons fired at point-blank range. The experimental warheads struck the alien ships and immediately began breaking down their exotic matter systems. Within seconds, both patrol vessels exploded in brilliant flashes of light. 2 contacts destroyed, Commander Park reported. Remaining fleet is moving to investigate. This was the part Chen had been waiting for. The hegemony response was always the same. Overwhelming force applied as quickly as possible. They would send their entire fleet to crush the human ship, leaving the supply station vulnerable. All ships, this is Prometheus, Chen said into her communicator. Execute Plan Delta. Repeat, execute Plan Delta. Hidden throughout the asteroid field, 4 more human ships powered up their systems. Earth's shipyards had been busy over the past 3 months, and the Prometheus was no longer alone. The UESS Defiance, Wellington, Yorktown, and Constitution emerged from concealment, surrounding the hegemony fleet. Fleet Commander Varys watched his tactical display in growing alarm. His intelligence reports had said there was only 1 human ship in this sector. Now he was facing 5 of them, and they had somehow managed to get into perfect attack positions without being detected. How did they hide so many ships? He demanded. Unknown, Fleet Commander, his sensor officer replied. Our scans showed only asteroids in this field. What the aliens didn't know was that human ships were designed to be stealthy. Their hulls were covered in materials that absorbed sensor waves, and their power systems could be shut down to almost nothing while maintaining life support. Hidden among the asteroids, they were practically invisible. All human ships. Open fire, Chen ordered. 5 star destroyers opened fire simultaneously, their exotic matter weapons targeting the alien ships from multiple directions. The hegemony fleet had been built to fight single opponents, not coordinated attacks from multiple angles. Varys watched his ships take damage faster than their repair systems could handle. The human weapons seemed designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in hegemony technology. Every shot struck at critical systems, causing maximum damage with minimum energy expenditure. Order all ships to target the supply station, Chen commanded. We need to destroy their coordination abilities. The human fleet turned its attention to the massive orbital facility. The station's shields were powerful, but designed to stop conventional weapons. Human exotic matter warheads passed through the shields like they weren't there, striking directly at the station's core systems. Direct hits on station primary computer core, Lieutenant Kim reported. They're losing system control across all departments. Inside the supply station, alien technicians struggled to maintain control as their computers failed one by one. The station coordinated hegemony operations across dozens of star systems, tracking every suppression fleet and emerging species. Without it, the aliens would be operating blind. Station is breaking apart, Kim continued. Core explosion in 30 seconds. The hegemony supply station exploded in a flash of light visible across the entire star system. Debris scattered in all directions, carrying with it the plans and coordination data for hegemony operations throughout the sector. Varys realized his position was hopeless. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled, and the humans were still fighting at full strength. Worse, they were coordinating their attacks with a precision his own forces couldn't match. All ships retreat to Rally Point Gamma, he ordered. Emergency priority message to High Command. Humans have developed fleet tactics and multiple ship construction capability. The surviving hegemony ships jumped away, leaving the human fleet in control of the battlefield. Chen watched them go, knowing that this victory was more important than the first one. They had proven that humans could coordinate multiple ships and destroy major hegemony installations. Excellent work, everyone, Chen said to her crew. Signal the fleet to begin salvage operations. I want every piece of alien technology we can carry. The 5 human ships spread out through the debris field, collecting intact alien equipment and data cores. Every piece of technology they captured would be studied and used to improve human ships and weapons. Commander, Lieutenant Torres said quietly, long-range sensors are detecting movement in nearby systems. It looks like the hegemony is mobilizing larger fleets. Chen nodded. She had expected this. The aliens couldn't allow human resistance to spread, or their entire system of control would collapse. They would send everything they had to crush Earth's star destroyers. Send a message to Earth Command, she ordered. Tell them we need more ships and we need them fast. Also tell them to start looking for allies. We can't fight the entire hegemony alone. As the human fleet prepared to leave the Kepler system, Chen thought about what they had accomplished. In 3 months, humanity had gone from a single experimental ship to a small but effective fleet. They had proven that hegemony forces could be defeated and their installations destroyed, but this was still just the beginning. Somewhere out there, alien admirals were planning humanity's destruction. They would come with larger fleets and better weapons, determined to make an example of the species that dared to resist. Chen looked at the stars on her main screen, knowing that each one might hide enemy ships. The galaxy was vast and the hegemony was powerful, but humans had something the aliens didn't understand: the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity would be ready for it. Earth's star destroyers would carry the fight to every corner of the galaxy, showing every oppressed species that freedom was possible. The silence of space had been broken, and it would never return. The Veiltar refugee ship limped through space, its hull scarred by weapon burns and its engines barely functional. Captain Sisitha watched the approaching human fleet with a mixture of hope and fear. Her people had been slaves to the hegemony for 3 centuries, and she wasn't sure these newcomers would be any different. "Human ships are hailing us," reported her communications officer. "They're requesting permission to come aboard." Sisitha's forked tongue tasted the air nervously. Hegemony ships never requested permission for anything. They simply took what they wanted and destroyed what they didn't need. Grant them permission, but keep our weapons ready. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Commander Chen studied the alien refugee ship. Intelligence reports said the Veiltar were one of dozens of species enslaved by the hegemony, forced to provide resources and soldiers for their masters. If humans could make allies of them, it would change the entire balance of power in the galaxy. "Shuttle Bay reports the alien delegation has arrived," Commander Reeves said. "Security teams are in position, but they're following your orders to treat our visitors as honored guests." Chen nodded. The past month had brought disturbing news from across the galaxy. Word of human resistance was spreading, inspiring uprisings on dozens of worlds, but it was also causing the hegemony to crack down harder on their slave species, punishing them for humanity's defiance. She made her way to the shuttle bay, where a delegation of reptilian aliens waited under heavy guard. The Veiltar were tall and graceful, with scales that shifted color based on their emotions. Right now, those scales showed the deep blue of fear mixed with the green of desperate hope. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth starship Prometheus," she said, offering a formal bow that she hoped translated across species lines. "Welcome aboard our vessel." Captain Sisitha studied the human female carefully. She was smaller than most hegemony species, with pale skin and strange hair that served no obvious purpose. But her eyes held something Sisitha had rarely seen in the galaxy: genuine respect for other beings. "I am Captain Sisitha of the refugee vessel Lost Hope," she replied, her translator device converting her hissing speech into human language. "We seek asylum from hegemony persecution." Chen gestured toward the shuttle bay exit. "Please let me show you to more comfortable quarters. We have much to discuss." As they walked through the corridors of the Prometheus, Sisitha marveled at what she saw. The human ship was different from anything in her experience. Hegemony vessels were built to intimidate, with dark corridors and harsh lighting that reminded everyone of their place in the hierarchy. This ship felt almost welcoming, with bright lights and crew members who nodded respectfully as they passed. "Your ship is unusual," Sisitha said carefully. "The crew seems content," Chen smiled. "We believe that people fight better when they're fighting for something they believe in, rather than something they fear." They reached the ship's conference room, where Chen had arranged for food and water suitable for Veiltar biology. It was a small gesture, but Sisitha's scales shifted to a surprised yellow. No one had considered her people's needs in centuries. "Captain Sisitha," Chen began, "we've learned about your people's situation. 300 years of slavery to the hegemony, forced to mine exotic materials and crew their ships. We want to help." Sisitha's scales shifted to a skeptical purple. "Help how? You are one species against an empire that spans thousands of worlds. Even if your ships are superior, you cannot fight everyone." Chen leaned forward. "We're not trying to conquer the galaxy. We're trying to free it. Every species should have the right to determine its own future." For several moments, Sisitha stared at the human in disbelief. In 3 centuries of hegemony rule, she had never heard anyone suggest that different species could be equals. The entire galactic order was based on the principle that stronger species ruled weaker ones. You speak of impossible things, Sisitha said finally. The hegemony has ruled for millennia. Their technology is superior. Their fleets are vast. What can one species do against such power? Chen activated a holographic display showing star charts marked with recent battle sites. In the past 4 months, human forces have destroyed 17 hegemony facilities and defeated 43 of their fleets. We're not trying to match their numbers, and we're using better tactics and superior coordination. Sisitha studied the tactical data with growing amazement. The humans had achieved more in 4 months than any resistance movement in hegemony history. But what impressed her most was something else she saw in the data. You don't attack civilian targets, she observed. Every strike is against military or government facilities. We're not interested in ruling through fear, Chen explained. We want to liberate oppressed peoples, not become oppressors ourselves. For the first time in her adult life, Sisitha felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Not just the desperate hope of escape, but the possibility that things could actually be better. What do you want from my people? She asked. Chen spread her hands. Partnership. The Veiltar know hegemony tactics, technology, and weak points. You understand how their supply lines work and where their forces are deployed. In exchange, we can offer protection, technology, and most importantly, freedom. And after the war? Sisitha pressed. When the hegemony is defeated, what then? Do humans become the new masters? Chen shook her head firmly. We're working toward something that's never existed in galactic history. A confederation of equal species, each governing themselves while cooperating for mutual benefit. No masters, no slaves, just allies working together. Sisitha's scales cycled through several colors as she processed this concept. It went against everything she had learned about how the galaxy worked. But she had seen the human ship, talked to their officers, observed how they treated their own crew and alien visitors. I must return to my ship and consult with our Council of Survivors, she said finally. This decision affects not just the refugees under my protection, but potentially all Veiltar everywhere. Of course, Chen agreed. Take all the time you need. In the meantime, we'd like to offer repairs for your ship and medical aid for your people. Sisitha's scales shifted to a warm gold color, gratitude mixed with amazement. You would help us even without an alliance? It's the right thing to do, Chen said simply. 6 hours later, Sisitha returned to the Prometheus with her answer. The Veiltar Council had voted unanimously to join the human alliance. More importantly, they had agreed to contact other refugee groups and resistance cells throughout hegemony space. We will provide you with intelligence on hegemony fleet. Movements and facility. Locations, Sisitha told Chen. In return, we ask for weapons and training to defend ourselves. Chen nodded. Our engineers are already working on adapting human weapons for Veiltar ships. But there's something else we want to offer you. She led Sisitha to the ship's main engineering section, where human and newly arrived Veiltar technicians were working side by side. The aliens were examining human shield technology, while the humans studied Veiltar stealth systems. Joint development, Chen explained. Your people have developed amazing stealth technology out of necessity. Our people have created adaptive shields and exotic matter weapons. Working together, we can create something neither species could build alone. Sisitha watched a human engineer explain quantum field manipulation to a Veiltar physicist, both of them excited by the possibilities they were discovering. For 300 years, her people had been forced to use their knowledge to serve their masters. Now they were free to create and explore alongside equals. Commander Chen, Sisitha said quietly, my people have a saying. The future is written in the stars. For centuries, we believed those stars promised only slavery and death. But perhaps we were reading them wrong, Chen smiled. The future isn't written anywhere, Captain. We write it ourselves, with every choice we make and every alliance we forge. As the two ships prepared to part ways, both carrying new knowledge and new hope, neither crew knew they were being watched. Hidden in the outer edge of the star system, a hegemony stealth ship recorded everything before slipping away to report to its masters. The news would send shockwaves through hegemony high command. Not only were the humans refusing to surrender, they were actively recruiting allies and sharing their technology. The galactic order that had existed for millennia was beginning to crack. But for now, Commander Chen and Captain Sisitha focused on the future they were building together. Two species that had never met, before today, were now allies in a war that would determine the fate of every thinking being in the galaxy. The alliance that would reshape the stars had begun with a simple act of kindness and a revolutionary idea that all species deserve to be free. The Titan Nebula stretched across space like a cosmic storm, its swirling gases hiding more than 300 ships from 8 different species. Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the largest fleet in human history prepare for the battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. Final ship count? Lieutenant Kim, Chen requested. 67 human star destroyers, 43 Veiltar stealth ships, 38 Corvin heavy cruisers, and various smaller vessels from allied species, Kim reported. Total fleet strength, 312 ships. Chen nodded, but her expression remained grim. Intelligence reports said the Hegemony Apex fleet was approaching with over 2,000 ships, including planet killers and reality-warping weapons. The aliens were done playing games. They intended to end human resistance permanently and make an example that would terrify any other species considering rebellion. Incoming transmission from the Hegemony fleet, reported the communications officer. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. The main screen showed Supreme Admiral Korthvar, the highest-ranking military officer in Hegemony space. His insectoid features were twisted with rage, and his mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke. "Attention, human terrorists and rebel scum," he began, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. "You have violated every law of galactic civilization. Your resistance ends today. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be quick. Continue fighting, and we will hunt down every member of your species across the galaxy." Chen stepped forward. "Open a channel." "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Allied Coalition," she said, her voice calm despite the odds they faced. "We reject your demands. Every species in this galaxy has the right to freedom and self-determination. If you want to stop us, you'll have to come and try." Korthvar's mandibles clicked faster. "So be it. You will learn why no species has successfully resisted the hegemony for 10,000 years. The transmission ended, and Chen turned to face her mixed crew of humans. Veiltar, Corvin, and other allied species. 6 months of cooperation had created something unprecedented in galactic history. A truly integrated military force where species differences were strengths rather than weaknesses. "All hands, this is Commander Chen," she announced shipwide. "Today we fight not just for our own freedom, but for the freedom of every thinking being in the galaxy. The hegemony believes that might makes right, that superior technology gives them the authority to enslave entire species. We're here to prove them wrong." The Hegemony fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the nebula, their ships arranged in the standard overwhelming force formation that had crushed 1,000 rebellions. Supreme Admiral Korthvar studied his tactical displays with satisfaction. No force in galactic history had ever faced this much concentrated firepower and survived. "All ships advance to attack position," he ordered. "Primary targets are the human command ships. Secondary targets are any vessel attempting to flee. I want complete annihilation." But as the Hegemony fleet moved into the nebula, they discovered their first problem. The cosmic gases interfered with their sensors and communications, making coordination between ships nearly impossible. It was like fighting while blind and deaf. The human allied fleet had prepared for this. Using Veiltar stealth technology and human coordination systems, they could communicate and maneuver effectively even in the sensor-jamming environment of the nebula. "Enemy fleet is spreading out to search for us," reported Lieutenant Kim. "They're losing formation, cohesion as they enter the nebula." Chen smiled grimly. This was exactly what they had planned for. "All allied ships execute Plan Omega. Repeat, execute Plan Omega." Throughout the nebula, small groups of allied ships began attacking isolated hegemony vessels. Instead of meeting the enemy fleet head-on, they were using the environment to break the larger force into smaller pieces they could actually defeat. Korthvar realized something was wrong when his fleet began taking casualties without seeing any enemy ships. The rebels were using the nebula itself as a weapon, striking from concealment and vanishing before his ships could respond effectively. "All ships, maintain formation," he ordered desperately. "Do not pursue individual contacts," but it was too late. His fleet was already scattered throughout the nebula, and his ships were being picked off one by enemies they couldn't effectively target. The Prometheus led a group of 12 allied ships in an attack on a hegemony heavy battle group. Using coordinated tactics that no single species could have developed alone, they disabled 6 enemy ships in as many minutes. Veiltar stealth ships report successful attack on enemy supply vessels, Commander Reeves announced. Corvin heavy cruisers have engaged the hegemony left flank and are reporting significant damage to enemy forces. Chen watched the tactical display as the battle developed. The Allied fleet was outnumbered 6-1, but they were fighting as a unified force while the hegemony ships struggled to coordinate their attacks in the sensor-scrambling environment. More importantly, the hegemony had never faced an enemy that truly understood cooperation. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming individual opponents, not fighting coordinated alliances of equal species. Commander, Lieutenant Torres called out urgently. Long-range sensors detect 3 hegemony planet killers moving toward Earth's position. If they break free of the nebula, they could destroy our home world. Chen felt her blood turn cold. The planet killers were massive ships designed to crack worlds open from orbit. Earth's defenses could stop conventional fleets, but not weapons designed to destroy entire planets. Signal all human ships, she ordered. We're breaking off to intercept the planet killers. Allied ships will continue the main battle. Captain Sisatha's image appeared on the communication screen. Commander Chen, my ships will accompany you. The Veiltar will not let Earth fall while we still have weapons to fight with. Similar messages came from the Corvin fleet commander and the other allied species. Despite having their own battles to fight, every allied ship was volunteering to help protect humanity's homeworld. Negative, Chen replied, touched by their loyalty, but knowing the tactical situation. We need you to keep the main hegemony fleet pinned down here. Earth is our responsibility. 30 human star destroyers broke away from the main battle, racing through the nebula toward the 3 planet killers. The massive hegemony ships were moving slowly but steadily toward the edge of the nebula, where they would be able to jump directly to Earth. Target the lead planet killer, Chen ordered as they approached. All ships concentrate fire on its main weapon systems. The human ships opened fire with everything they had. Exotic matter weapons and experimental warheads struck the massive enemy vessel, but its shields were designed to withstand the energy output of an entire star. The planet killer barely slowed down. Minimal damage to target, Commander Park reported. Their defenses are too strong for conventional weapons. Chen studied the tactical display, her mind racing through options. The planet killers were too powerful to destroy with direct assault, too well defended to disable with normal tactics. But they had one weakness. They were designed to fight planets, not agile starships. All ships new target, she announced. Ignore the planet killers themselves. Target their escort vessels. The human fleet shifted targets, attacking the smaller ships, protecting the planet killers. Without their escorts, the massive vessels would be vulnerable to close-range attacks on their vital systems. Within minutes, the escort fleets were destroyed or scattered. The planet killers were alone, defending themselves with weapons too large and slow to effectively target small, fast-moving ships. Ramming speed, Chen ordered, knowing what had to be done. All ships ramming speed. 30 human star destroyers accelerated toward the planet killers, their crews knowing they were making the ultimate sacrifice to protect Earth. But as they closed in, something unexpected happened. Allied ships began appearing throughout the nebula, having broken off from their own battles to help protect humanity's homeworld. Veiltar stealth ships, Corvin heavy cruisers, and vessels from a dozen other species joined the attack on the planet killers. This is Captain Sisatha, came the transmission. No species fights alone anymore. The combined Allied fleet struck the planet killers simultaneously. Ships designed to crack worlds apart were torn apart by coordinated attacks from species that had learned to fight as one. The massive hegemony weapons exploded in brilliant flashes that could be seen across the entire star system. With the planet killers destroyed and their main fleet scattered throughout the nebula, Supreme Admiral Korthvar realized the impossible had happened. For the first time in 10,000 years, the hegemony had been decisively defeated. All remaining ships retreat, he ordered, his voice hollow with disbelief. Withdraw to Rally Point Alpha. The surviving hegemony ships jumped away, leaving the nebula to the Allied fleet. Chen looked around at the mixed crew on her bridge. Humans, Veiltar, Corvin, and others working together as a single unit. Signal all ships, she said. Message to Earth, allied homeworlds, and every species in the galaxy. The age of hegemony tyranny is over. The Galactic Coalition of Free Species is officially established. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire.